right, stunning new information about the sheer scale of Hamas's attack on Israel. IDF forces recovering evidence showing the terror group amassed a trove of detailed maps and documents of the towns, military bases, the kindergartens, the daycare, all of which they planned and did attack. Now, the New York Times is reporting that Iran and Hezbollah had a hand in helping carry out the assault. They worked on it together for years. The Biden administration claims there is no direct evidence linking the two. I don't know why. My next guest has been warning about Hamas for far too long. Flashback 2018.
They reported that Hamas maps and social media show the fastest routes to reach Israeli communities in case demonstrators make it through the security fence. They have reported on Hamas messages over loudspeakers that urge demonstrators to burst through the fence, falsely claiming Israeli soldiers were fleeing, when in fact they were not. The same loudspeakers are used by Hamas to urge the crowds to, quote, get closer to the security fence.
Wow, joining us right now to expand on that because it actually happened, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, 2024 GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley. Governor, did you foresee that then? What happened now, then?
It was the warning we were trying to give. We knew that the maps were there. We knew that they had already planned, if they crossed the fence, what they were going to do, how many people they were going to kill, how quickly they could get to the communities. And we knew those maps were there. And so the biggest issue was, acknowledge what Hamas wants to do. And so in the General Assembly, all 193 countries, we were the first one to say, let's define Hamas as a terrorist organization. And believe it or not, Brian, I was able to get the majority of countries to acknowledge that Hamas was a terrorist organization. And the UN changed the rules at the last minute and said, oh, no, we need 2/3 vote. We have been talking about this for years. And what we've said is it's not just Hamas. It's Hezbollah. It's the Houthis. And guess what? Who's behind all of it? Iran. This is why it was such a problem when Obama gave all of that money in the first place. This is why it was a problem when Biden fell all over himself to try and get back into the Iran deal. This is why it was a problem when Biden loosened the sanctions. This is why it was a problem when he made the hostage deal with the $6 billion, is because we knew if the money flowed, those maps were going to come to life, because if they had money, they were going to use it to do the terror. And I've been in those terror tunnels. I've seen how sophisticated they are. They're massive. They're all underneath Gaza. And this is going to get messy, because when they move in, those tunnels underneath that carry ammunition and equipment and hostages and all of them, they're going to have to go through schools and hospitals to get to those tunnels. That's the terrible part about this. We need to pray for our brothers and sisters in Israel, because this is going to be tough.
And you see those lunatics who are protesting not only in big cities, but in the UK, in Spain, and coming out and going for Hamas, whose goal is to kill as many people as possible and capture as many hostages as they could grab. So the other thing to bring up is about how it relates to our southern border. If you see the border was a problem for the average American, for Democrats, for mayors and governors, Democratic mayors and governors, but now when you factor in the terror and al-Qaeda calling for attacks on us, how does that change the border issue?
I mean, Brian, what were they saying when they were dragging those bodies through the streets? What were they saying after they tortured all of those people in Israel? They were saying death to Israel, death to America. Joe Biden is acting like it's September 10th. That's the problem. It's not September 10th. And we need to know again what it felt like on September 12th. I am incredibly worried about everyone crossing the border, because we know 1,000 at least from Lebanon, from Yemen, from Iran. That doesn't count from Afghanistan.
Right.
All it takes is one. All it takes is one for us to see Americans die. Let this be the lesson. Close the border now and quit trying to play footsie with Iran. It's never going to work.
I hear you, Governor, Ambassador, Governor. You have a bunch of titles. But also, we know the head of Hamas, the brain trust, is in Qatar. Why don't we demand their extradition? I mean, why are we allowing this? We watched the Iranian foreign minister arrive in Doha today.
And where was the foreign minister before, Brian? The foreign minister was in Lebanon meeting with Hezbollah. Today, he's in Qatar meeting with Hamas. What does that tell you? Everything you need to know. Yet Blinken and Biden refuse to acknowledge that Iran has anything to do with this. There's a reason they're meeting with them, because they funded every bit of it. We have to wake up. We've got to start realizing our job is to protect Americans. We've got to protect Americans. We can't do that if you've got an administration that's too naive to see the dangers of Iran.
Governor, head-to-head with President Biden, you haven't lost to him since August. And the latest poll that came out on Fox has you up by 4, but you're trailing Donald Trump by, it looks like 49. How do you reconcile the two?
We're now second in Iowa, second in New Hampshire, second in South Carolina. We're going to keep on moving. Look, Americans get the fact that they need a new generational conservative leader because they don't want a President Kamala Harris. They know we have to win a general election. They're not going to risk it for all the reasons that we're seeing now. We're seeing all of this Democrat chaos play around us. You don't fix Democrat chaos with Republican chaos. You fix it with strength and stability, and that's what I'm going to bring to America, and that's how we're going to win.
And if you have some time, please fix the House. They need a speaker.